Hello everyone, welcome to JAA Your Way, and I'm Jen Airy. I am with the Special Needs Coalition here at the Jewish Federation, and I'm joined today by two of our wonderful community members, Rabbi Noga Marshall, she's the Education Director for Congregation Bethel in Voorhees, and Nicole Landau, she is the Inclusion Task Force Chair, also at Congregation Bethel in Voorhees. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is really wonderful, and I'm so excited by today's topic, so I can't wait to dive in. Let's start off with, what is your background in special needs? Why are you passionate about special needs? What makes you do what you do for our community?
So I am a mother of a special needs 17-year-old. Can't even call him a child anymore, which is crazy. And I've gotten quite an education in terms of figuring out his upbringing, figuring out what would work best for him in different stages of his life, and have participated in various programs in the community, Bethel especially, but the JCC and other, wonderful community activities. So I've learned a lot through the stages of growth for him, and also about the opportunities in the community.
Fantastic. And how about you, Rabbi Marshall?
So growing up, I didn't really know much about special needs until I was 12 years old when my immediate younger brother, Eyal, at age 5 in 1986, was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And after 2 surgeries, the second one successful, he suffered a brainstem stroke, which left him in a coma for 3 months. And when he woke, he was a quadriplegic from the neck down, on a respirator. His vocal cords were paralyzed, but his mind was intact. And from that day on, our whole family became involved in the special needs community. He came home 2 years afterwards, and he started a new life as someone with special needs, and we got involved because he went to public school, and we had to learn how, to address his needs. And our life completely changed, and our eyes were open to a whole new world, a whole new community, a very special community. And since that day, my whole family each have continued to be involved in the special needs community. When I became a rabbi, and my first position was a pulpit in Palm Beach, Florida, I wanted to do something for this community. So I started through Jewish Family and Children's Services in West Palm Beach, a adult bar mitzvah class for adults who never had a bar mitzvah. And then the following year, we grew it and added a confirmation class. And then after 2 years, we had this beautiful bar mitzvah confirmation ceremony for these adults. And everywhere I went, my passion was, special needs. Prior to coming to Congregation Bethel, we also had a wonderful special needs religious school program. And one of the things that attracted me to Congregation Bethel was their Project Love program, and Teen Love program was our special needs religious school program. And I owe it all to my brother, who passed away 2 years ago, for introducing us to an incredible Jewish community, community, and watching. And why my family and I are so passionate is because, we've seen what it was like when, the services that he never received. We wanted to make a difference and help those in need. And since my brother's passing, our family's actually started a foundation to help those with physical disabilities. And, my goal as an educator is to provide a Jewish education in a warm and welcoming community for everyone despite their needs. So that is my passion and why I'm involved in this community.
Absolutely, and may your brother's memory be for a blessing.
Thank you.
that's definitely, wonderful motivation, and it really speaks to your heart and your caring, and so I appreciate that so much. I too am a parent of two boys with autism, special needs, and it's really wonderful how the special needs community really comes together and we support each other. So thank you so much for that and bringing this to our synagogues, because it's such an important piece.
And what I've learned, and I'm sure we'll be talking about this later, is that we got involved, all three of us got involved because of our family situation. But what we're trying to do is to educate others, who don't have our experience, and start to educate them at such an early age to make sure that people with special needs are fully included and fully welcome in their communities.
Absolutely, and I think that's a goal that we can all definitely get behind. So yeah, let's kind of dive in a little bit more. So I know why inclusion is important, but why do you think inclusion is important in your synagogue and in your religious organization that you belong to, whatever your faith might be? Why is that an important piece?
Do you want to start?
Yes, I think it's important for the person who needs to be included, but I think it's also important for the overall community. And I've seen through my personal experiences, I love when I'm in situations where my son would regularly feel uncomfortable, and there's been some accommodations that have been made so that he can enjoy or participate. And Bethel and the JCC are just fantastic at sort of fostering those situations. But what is the other flip side, which is so nice, is the compassion of the community members, or for example, my other children, and how they feel about it and how they see it, and how they see it with their friends, and how I see their friends embracing it. I feel like the more we educate people and the more we help people understand and how easy it is to include somebody, and the minor adjustments that could be made that would make such a significant difference. It's great for the recipient, but it's also great for the person who's providing that. And I think that it's really a wonderful thing. And I think that it's nice for us to educate people, let them know what to do, because I think that's one of the big challenges, is that people don't know what to do, and it makes them feel uncomfortable. And when you feel uncomfortable, you tend to just do nothing, or tend to not, look at it, so to speak. But if you kind of give people the tools, and they're very easy tools, on how to address this, then it's just such a win-win situation. Because, what makes somebody feel, what makes, the whole philosophy behind Judaism is the whole idea of giving, and the whole idea of putting other people before yourselves. This is just such a great example of demonstrating that, in my opinion.
Wonderful. And how about you, Rabbi Marshall?
Inclusion goes, I think, beyond just offering a special needs program, like a religious school program, which we have, and that's amazing that we, provide. We really meet the needs of any student who comes to our school. If they have any type of special needs, we will meet their needs, because not everyone learns the same. And the beauty of our program is that we have a self-contained classroom, but we also have students who are mainstreamed, and we basically meet the needs. But it's important as synagogue as a whole to be inclusive, because it's a community that we're creating, and anyone and everyone who walks in should be welcomed and comfortable despite their physical or emotional or abilities. And to me, that's why inclusion is so important, because years of 30 or almost 40 years ago, when my brother was younger and would come to the synagogue where my father was the rabbi, people didn't know what to do, and they didn't know how to treat him. No one, there was no one else like him, and he seemed to always be the outsider. And that was my goal as an educator, to never make anyone feel that way despite their limitations. And everyone should be able to walk into a synagogue. If they can't see well, then you have large print Sederim or magnifying glasses. If you have people with attention issues, it's okay to that they make noise in the synagogue. And it doesn't have to be silent there. And we need to educate people in the synagogues and the community as a whole, how to be welcoming, because no one's the same. And if you're trying to create a warm, welcoming community, then that's why we have this inclusion task force that Nicole is the chair of, because we want to go beyond having a special program. We want to include everyone in the synagogue as a whole, in every constituent group, every activity. For our Yom HaAtzmaut community celebration, we have a sensory-friendly room, because it's loud and crazy, and we want everyone to come, but some people may need a quiet space for a little, so we offer that. So what our inclusion task force is trying to do is to make sure our community is as inclusive as possible, and Nicole's doing a great job with that. So
wonderful. I think both of you touched on this, and I wanted to kind of follow up. Now, Nicole, you mentioned that there were some tools and some tricks and just some little things that could be done for accommodations. And Rabbi Marshall, you gave us a great example by having a sensory room where if somebody needs to take a break, they can just go in there, and then when they're ready to rejoin the activities, they can. But do you have any of those tips and tricks and other ideas that you would like to share with somebody that they could maybe bring back to their synagogue or to their church or wherever they might go?
Well, I think that Rabbi Marshall touched upon a really important point, which is, the whole idea of inclusion is not to just designate certain people. It's really a whole general idea of the synagogue. And I think it's, special needs is like a wide array, not to mention that there are other specialized needs that people have that don't even fall under the category of special needs. So I just think when you create an environment where people are encouraged to be warm and friendly and to really to read cues and to try to accommodate people accordingly, I think that it can serve so many different people. I mean, there could be someone who's painfully shy and has a hard time maybe going to social events, and then they come to the synagogue and they're uncomfortable. It's like, how do you make that person feel comfortable? I just think by keeping an open mind and trying to figure out how to, really be sensitive, put yourself in someone else's shoes, try to, use your own tools in terms of reading people's cues. For example, for my son, he may seem a little standoffish, maybe don't come up and get in his face, you know what I mean? And sort of give him like a high five or try to interact with him where you're not doing something that you think would make him feel uncomfortable. Now, I know it's not always that clear cut, but I'm saying that there are a lot of cues out there that are just really easy, low-hanging fruit where you could really reach out to somebody and do something that really makes a difference to them.
So we, as a task force, we sent out surveys, we spoke to people, and we tried to see what the needs were of the community, and what people were looking for to be more inclusive. And it's a process, and
we got some interesting feedback, actually.
Yeah, a lot of the feedback was related to being making people feel more comfortable in the community, not necessarily having a physical or emotional special need, but being mindful and being warm and welcoming. If someone was new and didn't know anyone, really, welcome them in. Not just a greeter, but going up to them. Someone
you don't know. Right. It's just an important philosophy because it kind of carries over, but it just makes you sort of a decent human being to think that way, and then it does carry over naturally.
And it's educating the leaders of the community. We we had a whole session on how to be inclusive with our faculty, and staff at the religious school, and it's just, it's a step-by-step process if you want to be more inclusive. If your building is not wheelchair accessible, then you focus on that and make it accessible. We made sure that we thought of everything. It's a long walk from our entrance to the sanctuary, so making sure that there are signs or the greet. If you have if you have, if your eyesight is not good, at least have the greeters say, okay, we do have wheelchairs, we have help getting, if you need help to get through the building. So it's being mindful, it's doing research, and it's a slow process, but, baby steps, you will see a difference.
Absolutely. And I love that you're talking about changing the culture, basically, of your organization, of your synagogue, because when I recently went around and did a bunch of roundtables here in the community and talked to a lot of our Jewish families, I would say probably the number one biggest barrier for them accessing their synagogue was not feeling welcome. And that it was a lot of, the pearl clutchers, my child made noise during Shabbat, or they, had to get up and move around, or did something that wasn't what a traditional, religious goer might expect you to behave. They expect you to sit still and quiet and do what you're supposed to do. And anybody kind of outside of that, they might get a look, or they might get, they might draw, in a breath and get all kind of, a little rigid. And now those are all kind of those nonverbal things, or they may even say something verbally that really don't make you feel very welcome. And I love that you're addressing sort of that culture and that climate and really showing people that it's important to think of everyone. I think that's to be commended. What do you think makes other organizations, what are the barriers that prevent them from becoming inclusive? What makes them, have really struggled with this?
I do think over the past 36 years that there is a big difference, and I think more institutions and faith-based organizations are becoming a lot more inclusive. We always say what's our biggest challenge for our religious school program is that we want more students, but the truth of the matter is other organizations have stepped up and are offering amazing programs. So in a way, it's hard for us because we want more students, but it's great for the community that other institutions are offering programs. But if there are hindrances, it's lack of education, and maybe the unknown of how to do things, the unknown of, if you've never experienced someone with a special need or, with limitations. I think that's the biggest issue, is not knowing what to do and not being educated. But I think there truly has been a major, change over the past number of years of addressing the needs of those with limitations. But I think, if you agree with me, educating others.
Educating, I think, is important, because in a lot of instances, and I touched upon this in the beginning, it's like people are uncomfortable. They don't know what to do. And I've witnessed it firsthand so many times. And sometimes if you just help them understand what they can do, it's like they're so excited to do it. I had friends, like my closest friends, when my son was first diagnosed with autism, it's like they didn't even really know what to say to me. And some of them said nothing, and that was hurtful to me. But at the same time, it's like just, letting people know that, you can just be there for me as a friend, or you can just do this to help my son, or,
Say hello,
Say hello, interact with him, it's, he would really appreciate it.
Just acknowledgement goes a long way.
Yeah, acknowledgement goes a long way. Don't make pretend he's not here. Right. Because you don't know how to handle it. And, obviously there's a nice way to say that. But I think that I think people want to know what to do. And I've really had that experience, like with my personal relationships, where once I kind of educate them a little bit and let them understand what they could do, it just felt good for them too.
So as you said, it's education.
Yeah.
It's educating.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest things is people want to be kind, and they are afraid that they may say or do something that's going to either create a problem or maybe cause offense, and it kind of paralyzes you, and you don't really know where to go.
And it's understandable, because if you've never had that experience, it's and that's the beauty of programs today, that we're exposing children of people with special needs. So they're exposed and they think it's,
part of the norm.
Part of the norm.
Yeah.
And that's not something different.
The kids are more comfortable than the adults.
Right.
For sure.
And I'm thrilled. And I see that with my own kids because to them, I remember when my youngest sister was born right when my brother was diagnosed, so she didn't know him any different. And someone asked her, what's it like to have a brother like Ayal? And she goes, what do you mean? He's my brother, my regular brother. Because she didn't know any different. And that's, I think, what children today have, the good fortune of being exposed at a very young age, and that it's normal that not everyone's the same.
Right.
Absolutely. Definitely something we can learn from the children.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. Now, I know we've touched on this a little bit, but could you talk a little bit more about how inclusion has changed over the years? And I know with your brother, you definitely had a very different experience with him when he was younger versus what your congregants now experience with similar challenges.
So, I grew up in Syracuse, New York. My father was the rabbi there. And, he made major changes. The synagogue then wasn't handicap accessible, so they redid the entire sanctuary and bima and chapel to have it wheelchair accessible. There wasn't a program for my brother to participate in. He was tutored privately for his bar mitzvah by the cantor. Things like that. They didn't have programs like that there. But the fact, and look, I don't know what it was like here 30 years ago because I'm not from here, but in general as a whole, I feel that we address the special needs community so much more and offer, so he was involved in the Challenger baseball team in Syracuse, the baseball team for children with disabilities. But there's more of that these days. There's more options for people. We offer a job coaching program through our Project Lab program. These are things my brother never had. So in a way, I think there's I still think, at a certain age point, programs aren't available for people. Like when you get
that's changing too,
right,
dramatically.
So I think it's changing what kind of programs are available. The physical institutions have changed almost everywhere. Is pretty much handicap accessible, I believe. Not everywhere, but for the most part, if you go in, people in wheelchairs can get into places. And just I think the overall culture has changed. And I think it's wonderful. I think, we're always looking to improve. But, I think it has changed in those areas.
Mm-hmm. So I haven't had as many years of experience as she has. So, I'm thinking about my exposure to it over the last 17 years. And I have seen a lot of positive changes, and that's mostly in the comfort level with it. I think because of the overall exposure and education and general understanding that has improved dramatically over the years, has really made a tremendous difference for my son and for our family.
For sure. No, I think that's really wonderful that we are moving in such a positive direction. And one of the things too, if there's anybody who might be watching right now and would like to take some of these things back to, their faith organization, that it helps everybody. I think you guys mentioned that earlier on in the webinar, that helping somebody with, there's a famous cartoon where they are clearing off the stairs from the snow, but they haven't cleared off the ramp. And everybody can get in using the ramp if we just clear that off first, because everybody can use that. And having these accommodations and this mindset helps not just individuals with special needs, but also think about your aging population, your seniors in your congregation, and like you said too, your shy person who might not be very comfortable. But if we just tweak things a little bit, it can be a much more welcoming experience for them.
It's not even just the synagogues and other faith institutions, like we just went to the beach, my family and I, and there was a huge ramp put up, and my father even said, "Oh, this would have been good for Eyal," So even those types of places have become more accessible for people, and because that's the reality we live in. But yes, we've had experience in it, but we're not. I don't. Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert because of that, but I've gone to seminars. We're part of the Ruderman Task Force, and where we go to conferences to learn about how to make things more inclusive. So, for other synagogues and other faith-based organizations, there are, programs out there
Great
to guide,
resources.
to help them and to guide them through making their community more inclusive. So.
Absolutely. Now, I can't help but think back to when I was younger and some of the people who, were very rigid in their thinking and in their approach to what your religious experience needed to look like and how it was supposed to go. What would you say to somebody like that to help encourage them to become more welcoming to individuals with differences who might have a different experience during, a service or during some aspect of their synagogue life that, maybe we could help encourage them to open up and be willing to include people with disabilities and have maybe a little bit more of an open perspective in mind.
Really, maybe inviting them to, a discussion with the leaders of the community, of the synagogue, or the community, sharing information, introducing them to, people with special needs, getting the clergy to speak from the pulpit is a big thing,
I think
and
that's
to
a
have them
very
on
big
board,
thing.
that it's okay for, to allow people to run up and down, kids to run up and down. If someone, talks louder, it's okay. But to have the clergy, be involved and supporting this task force or, this initiative goes a long way.
Absolutely. Now, I have to admit, I have been to some of the special needs religious services that you have at Congregation Bethel, and they are so much fun. I love it. It is. Everybody is happy, and they're up, and they're moving, and they're singing, and you don't feel like you're at a religious service. You feel almost like it's like a celebration.
Yes.
And
But even
it's
our
really,
regular services, Friday night services, are like that too. So I think.
Yeah, we try to, I think that Bethel does a really nice job in terms of not just designating these special needs services, which are wonderful, by the way. I personally like them as well. But I think that they try to bring that into the regular service so that people understand that it's okay. And I think it also goes to Bethel's whole come as you are type of idea, because they recognize that people have busy lives, and they want to make sure that there's no rules to religion, and services start when you get there. It's like that same idea, which is just to encourage and get the joy out of it and make it a positive experience that accepts everyone.
Wonderful. Now, I know we have mentioned Project Love and a few other things, but I'd love to take a couple minutes here just to kind of go over what is Project Love and what are some of the other special needs specific programs and things that Bethel does to include the community.
So our early childhood center has a full-time special needs teacher.
So this is your daycare and preschool?
Yes. We have an inclusion classroom for ECC and religious school. Project Lev is our Sunday Hebrew school program for children. Some of them are not even children anymore, and young adults with special needs. We don't have an age cutoff. where they come on Sundays from 10 to 12, and they have a religious school experience ranging from Jewish music. They join the whole religious school in our rock and roll shachrit, our rock and roll service in Havdalah. They have a movement class, job coaching class, but then there are other students who have special needs who are mainstreamed. That's our self-contained classroom. We have a Hebrew resource program for students who need extra help in Hebrew. So, it's not just your physical and emotional needs, but we also address learning issues and learning differences. So that's our, the Hebrew resource is separate than the Project Lev class, but those are the things we offer in our religious school.
And then separate from that, which we talked about in the beginning when I got my distinguished title, but the Ruderman Task Force is something that we created
through the help of the Ruderman organization.
Yes.
And United Synagogue.
Correct.
It falls under them. We're part of their Ruderman Task Force.
So what that gives us is access to the tremendous resources of other synagogues and the different things that they've done. And we've gone to a few conferences where people share their experiences at their synagogue and leading the effort. And it's just a tremendous resource. When we've done education of the teachers a few years ago, we were able to leverage materials from the Ruderman Task Force, which was really fantastic because it gave us all these great ideas of things to talk to them about. So it's not like, you were saying before, you were saying, how do you get this out there? There's so much information and material at this point in time. It's like not like you even need to recreate the wheel.
Right.
You just have to have the passion to want to do it.
Right.
Absolutely. Now,
and you don't have to be a member of Bethel to be enrolled in Project Lev.
Oh,
So
that's
it's open
wonderful
to
to
the
know.
entire community. Jewish
Fantastic.
Can I say a little something about
Of
Project Lev?
course.
Because my son participates in Project Lev. He has for many years, and he's 17. And it's just been such a wonderful experience for him because he's had the exposure to the religious education. It's made him more comfortable in the synagogue. He was bar mitzvahed there. It helped prepare him for that. And it also it's been a nice experience that he's had with advocates in the program. There's students.
Some of our advocates are students and some are professionals.
Correct. And they volunteer their time to work with these kids. And it's my son has developed such tremendous relationships with these people. And I think that one thing that the special needs community is lacking in is having activities for which your children can be there without parental supervision outside of school. And this outside activity, I mean, he gets so excited because, his parents aren't there, especially as he's gotten older, he doesn't really want us there all the time.
Yeah, what teenager wants mom and dad tagging along?
So I think that he loves that opportunity to be there and be part of something that doesn't involve us. And then he sees, since he goes to a self-contained school, he is in this, he's in a self-contained class there, but he also sees his siblings there. He sees other friends of our family.
What's really nice, I've had over the years kids in the regular program who are younger, like pre-B'nai Mitzvah, who've wanted to volunteer in that classroom. So, again, it's a way to expose, kids in our regular program of other people who may be different than them.
Wonderful. Now, one last question. I think I already know the answer to this, but if there was an organization that wanted to approach you, maybe another synagogue, and they would like to sit down with you and kind of pick your brain a little bit and get some suggestions and maybe some guidance in how they can become more inclusive, would that be something that you would welcome?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. I knew the answer. Fantastic. And is there any last bits that you would like to share with us? Any more ideas about inclusion or your approach at Bethel? It sounds amazing, and from what I have experienced there, it's really truly a beautiful experience for everyone.
I think you and all the other organizations in this area that have offered, programs for special needs. It's fabulous, and, they should be proud of themselves of the mitzvah they're doing to make sure everyone is welcome and included in our community.
For sure. How about you, Nicole?
I can really echo what you're saying. I mean, I'm also a member of the Jewish Abilities Alliance, which also is actually representative of all the synagogues in the area. So it's nice that we have these opportunities as people who are passionate about special needs to kind of, share knowledge and to work on committees that can do things that better the community. And I feel like it's part of my day-to-day life, but it's been the amazing silver lining, it is giving me such great perspective, and it's really a privilege to be able to help people in this way, and it does, at the end of the day, feel really good.
Yeah, fantastic. I would second that as well, or third it, as it may be, that sometimes, just rolling up your sleeves and jumping in, and it makes such a difference.
It really does.
Yeah, so wonderful. Well, thank you so
Thank
much, Rabbi
you.
Marshall.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Nicole, for speaking with us today. And as always, thank you to everybody who tuned in, and feel free to check out the JAA Your Way library on our website for all of our past webinars and podcasts. Thanks.